What is going on, everybody? Zeke here from Zeke Fishing Pro, and today we're going to be talking about an issue that I've wanted to cover on this channel for quite some time now. What is a baitcaster? How does it work? And what are the parts of it? And how can you use it to be most effective to catch more bass? If you want some clarification and some questions answered, join me on this video and stay tuned. And without further ado, let's dive right into it. Alright, so before we jump into this video, I gotta show you, do you guys like the setup of the new, I guess, studio or whatever you want to call it? I just put up some stuff to make a little bit more appealing to the background. I got this set while we were in Bandon, Max Field Guide to Salmon and Trout, and it's got all different types of trout species, and then on the back, as you can see, it's got some salmon species. And then over here, I got this yesterday. This is a whole field guide to Panther Martins. This is just Panther Martins, which that's insane. So huge shout out to my boy Josiah for making this. He got this for me, made this for me a while ago, and I should have showed this to you guys sooner. Anyway, he made this for me out of programming a computer to cut this out of steel, I think it is. And yeah, big shout out to you, Josiah. This thing is absolutely awesome and looks good in the background. All right, so without further ado, we're going to be talking about the first issue and question, and that is, what is a baitcaster and how does it work? It's quite a small little object. As you can see, it's about the size of my palm. So first off, I just wanted to compare it to a baitcaster to a normal spinning reel. Now, as you can see, they are quite different. One of them has two handles, one of them has one. And the spool, which is this bit right here, the line is up here and you reel just like this. The baitcaster, the line is in the middle of the reel and you reel over here. When you go to cast, you flip your bail on a spinning reel, just like there. With a baitcaster, you push a button, just like this, and that allows the spool to free spin when you go to cast your lure or bait. So now, how does it work? So, I covered that a little bit, but basically, how I hold a baitcaster, now I have it just unattached to the rod just so I can show it to you guys. How I hold a baitcaster is I put my hands just like this and grip it sort of like that. Now, I'm left-handed when I use baitcasters, but I'm right-handed when I use spinning reels. Now, most anglers do that when they use baitcasters. Most of the pros use left-handed baitcasters, but right-handed spinning reels. You can also use a right-handed spinning reel and a right-handed baitcaster. Here's a picture of that now. So most of the time, I hold it like this, where I grip it. It's called palming the reel. And I'll give you an example really quick of what it looks like to cast when you're palming the reel. I switch hands and cast with my right arm while pressing the button and letting the spool free spin while keeping my thumb on the spool so that I don't get a rat's nest. If you don't keep your thumb on that spool, it'll look like this. And man, it is one heck of a job to get that undone. Now that is exactly how a baitcaster works. Now let's discuss the parts of a baitcaster. So right here, like I've discussed earlier, is the spool of the reel. Where exactly is the drag on this thing? The drag, how you set it, is this little gear right here. Now you can loosen it, just like that, and you can tighten it. And this allows that exactly what a spinning reel does. The drag is up here, and you turn it just like that so that the spool can spin, or it's really, really tight. So with a baitcaster reel, the drag is over here, and a baitcaster has what is called brakes, which is over here. And brakes are, when you go to cast your baitcaster and the spool is spinning really fast, the reel, depending on how tight you have your brakes, will automatically stop the spool from spinning when it hits the water. So right now I have my brakes set to 10, which is normally where I have it, just because I almost never get backlashes. But most of the time when I do get one, it's usually due to my brakes. If you're really good at casting, I usually have it on like 6, but most of the time, I always keep it on 10 just to be safe. Now there's one last thing we need to talk about the mechanics of a baitcaster, and that is this little knob right here. Now you can turn it to the left or right. It's kind of a little gear right next to the drag, and this is your free spin. That's what I like to call it. They might have another name for it, but basically when you go to press the button of the baitcaster, the spool will spin and let the lure down onto the ground, and that is what this is for. This allows you to control how fast and how slow your lure drops, which allows you to make longer or shorter casts. So now that we've covered the parts of a baitcaster and how does it work, now let's discuss how can you use it to be most effective while catching bass. Now I see a lot of people, like I discussed before, hold the reel like this. And like I said before, your arm is not straight. I have a big puffy jacket on, but my arm is not straight. It's kind of like this at an obtuse angle, and that makes your arm get much more tired over a short period of time. So when using a baitcaster, always have your brakes set to how you think you can use the reel. If you're not as skilled of a fisherman, definitely put the brakes on 10. That'll save you a lot more backlashing and a lot more of it'll allow you to be most efficient when casting. Now, as far as line goes for a baitcaster reel, most of the time, pro anglers have what's called backing line. And that is just, I think it's about 50 yards of monofilament before they have their braid attached to the monofilament. And this allows so you can have a longer spool and a more stronger spool. Now, as far as line quality goes, my man Tyler's Real Fishing, link in the description to his channel, he always uses Seagar fluorocarbon, and it is one of the most strongest fluorocarbons. So if you can't afford Seagar, which is kind of expensive, you can always use monofilament, which is what I have, and it's cheap and it works and it's very strong. I never really use braid just because I can't cut it with my teeth. It's not easy to cut in the first place, and it's much more dangerous if it gets tangled on a tree, or if you get tangled in a tree, you are not getting that lure back because braid is extremely hard to snap, even if it is very light. But do what you want. It is your preference to use braid or monofilament. I'm not telling you to use monofilament more than braid. Do what you want and do what's most best for you. Now, as far as the drag settings go, if you know that you're going to be catching big fish and you have heavy line on your reel, most of the time you want to keep that drag set to a little bit loose. Now, I say loose because if you have it really tight and you hook a big fish, it's gonna run and snap you off very quickly. If you leave it loose, then that can allow the fish to run and do its thing while allowing you to have control over the fish at all times. Well guys, a little bit of a shorter video, so I hope it was very helpful to you guys in how to fish with a baitcaster, what are the parts of it, and how can you use it to be most efficient when bass fishing. Now, one last thing, baitcasters are not only for bass fishing, some are. This one is specifically for bass fishing, but most companies make them for bass fishing because they are more efficient to catch bass, and that's really what it's become. But baitcasters can be used for saltwater, river fishing, all different types of things depending on your preference. But bass fishing, most of the time we use baitcasters. Now, I'm not a pro at a tournament by any means, but most pro bass fishermen will tell you to use a baitcaster because it's more efficient. Now, if you guys enjoyed this short little tutorial video, leave a like on this video. I really would appreciate it. And also, smash that subscribe button. You know it does a ton. We're at 204 subscribers. You guys have absolutely been smashing it on the support and the subscribe button. Thank you guys so much. And without further ado, make sure to catch them like a pro, and I'll see you all in the next one.